I love you. I guess I always will. And girl, oh baby, you're my best friend. Girl, you're my love within. I just want you to know that I will always love you. New Kids on the Block, my boys, aka the White New Edition, aka NKOTB. That's what it is. Donnie, Danny, Jonathan, Jordan, and especially Joey. Um, they are the greatest white boy band in history. If it wasn't for them, there'd be no NSYNC, no Backstreet Boys, no Old Town, none of that. This is the original blueprint for that demographic. And what I have to say is that, they came out at such a perfect time when the music demographic was still somewhat separate but equal. And when I say separate but equal, because to most record labels, they directly aimed certain groups, whether it was rock or R&B, to a certain kind of audience. I mean, the race game was and still being played a lot in certain arenas today. Whereas if you were the color of the group, you automatically catered to that. Like, for example, for the black girls, there was New Edition. For Menudo, there was the Hispanic girls. And, of course, Maurice Starr saw that the white girls' audience had no other groups. They had no groups. So, basically, he filled that void. And I say that to say because, as most people know, you don't have to be white to like New Kids on the Block the same way you don't have to be black to like New Edition. You know what I mean? It's like it goes both ways. I mean, the whole thing is that music is colorblind, and New Kids on the Block definitely paid their dues because, as many people may or may not know, they got their start playing to nothing but black audiences for 4 or 5 years before they even signed a record deal. So they was paying them dues and playing in those clubs and in those schools when they were not Nuke. Just grinding it out because their original mission was to be the first white-based hip-hop R&B group. And the thing about it was that they had more of the reason to because of the fact that they were really from the hood, the Dorchester part of Boston. So they definitely wasn't pretenders to the throne or trying to be something that there wasn't, as many critics and even many music aficionados would always try to claim that they were. So it would be funny when I would hear things like, oh, Donnie's trying to act black, not realizing that Donnie's one of the biggest Parliament Funkadelic fans that you could ever meet. This dude knows his music. I mean, they grew up in an environment where there was a lot of music being played on radio. This is when radio stations still played a variety of music. So he said that I would wake up in the morning, getting up on the school bus to listen to Led Zeppelin. By the time I get to school, he would be listening to Parliament Funkadelic. So Donnie pretty much knew what it took to bring the whole thing together in terms of him being the first member that Maurice Starr picked out to start his new mission. And as everybody know, because New Edition was originally a part of Maurice's Starr camp before they left. So, of course, Maurice Starr said, okay, now we're going to use 5 white guys this time. So he already had the thing in motion. But the problem is that it was hard to find white guys that were doing what Donnie was doing, because Donnie was breakdancing, he was rapping, he was doing a little bit of singing. But of course, Donnie brought in his friends. So here you have now Danny Wood, breakdance extraordinaire, occasional lead vocals, and as far as the harmony is concerned, he was always singing the bass parts, like on Favorite Girl, that's him, and Don't You Know? Like, he always had this ability to always throw in the Melvin Franklin kind of bass thing happening. So it was cool to have that element. And then, of course, you have the ultimate lead singer, Joey McIntyre, who basically served as the Michael Jackson-esque quality of the group, because he was the youngest and he had that childlike innocence to his voice that can really, really sell the actual song of whatever they were doing. And then you got Jordan Knight, the ultimate lead singer as well. The man with the high-end soulful first tenor falsetto. And the thing about Jordan that always amazed me, and still amazes me to this day, is you can tell that Jordan did his homework when it came to soul R&B music, because his voice was very reminiscent of Ted Mills from Blue Magic and Russell Tompkins from the Stylistics. So he definitely was doing his homework. So when you hear him singing "I'll Be Loving You Forever," or when he sings "Valentine Girl," you know, he's always hitting that upper register. And it was crazy because, you know, you can tell that Jordan really did have some soul in him. And then last but not least, the final piece of the puzzle was the oldest member, which is Jonathan Knight. And it's crazy because Jonathan, though he's so known for being shy and everything like that, when Jonathan got his time to sing, he sang. Because as many people may or may not know, Jordan and Jonathan Knight, because they're both brothers, grew up singing in the church choir. So they already had the training and the experience. So when they brought it all together with the three other individuals, it just made for a great recipe. And it's safe to say that their influence for me extended beyond just the singing aspect. They really had the moves. And, you know, these wasn't some white boys trying to dance. Like, these guys really, really could dance, especially Jordan, Danny, and Donnie. They're certified break dancers, the same way how Ralph, Bobby, and Ronnie and Mike from New Edition were certified break dancers in their unit. So it was very interesting to watch a lot of the classic early footage from when they first started. And as a matter of fact, I saw their very first show when they were still Nine Nuke at the Apollo. And I remember them coming on the stage, and, you know, of course, the booing started because, you know, as many people know, the Apollo Theater in New York, mostly a black crowd, you know, and every time somebody of a different shade comes in, they start to hate right away. They don't even give the white or Hispanic person a chance to sing. They just kind of like, boo, we don't want to hear you. But when they hit that stage and killed it, they suddenly changed that whole situation around and proved once again, and many people not knowing, that New Kids on the Block was already paying their dues in Boston, playing to nothing but black crowds in a lot of the different schools that they were traveling and performing in. And there was no auto-tune, there was no sequence back then, so you really, really have to have the talent. And to this day, I just feel that they should get more of the credit for the fact that they were really, really on their grind with no extra help whatsoever. And that's what it takes. I mean, when they put up with the first album, it was very bubblegum, but you can hear the distinct setup, the way they had everything as far as the group was concerned. You can get the automatic picture with songs like Be My Girl, where, you know, Jordan is singing and you can hear Donnie and Joey in the background, or you hear a song like New Kids on the Block where they just straight up all five of them are rapping. So it was really, really a perfect blueprint to set up, even though the first album didn't do as good. And then they had the nerve to go ahead and make their second single a remake of the Delfonics classic Did Not Blow Your Mind this time. And later songs like Valentine Girl are very reminiscent of that, because you can tell that they really were studying the Spinners, the Stylistics, the Delfonics, and Blue Magic, because even the way Danny starts off, there is no star in the sky. You know, you got that mellow bass thing, and then Jordan just comes right in with the, will you be mine? Like, it was just a whole, they definitely did their homework, and they always paid homage, and that's the most important thing, if you ask me, no matter what color you are. Pay homage to the people that came before you. And from their very first interview, they've never, ever, ever discredited New Edition for opening doors for them and any of the other groups that came before them. So I highly respected them, even just from seeing those interviews and seeing that these guys were really sincere in their approach. So that made me an even bigger fan, and later on a certified blockhead. I was never scared to admit it, and as everybody see me on Twitter, I'll boast it proud. One of the greatest moments in 2008 was seeing them get back on stage together again after 15 years, because the music industry really, really needed some nostalgia. I mean, we were living and still living in a world where auto-tune and sequence tracks and dudes doing too much lip syncing, it was just taking over the masses. And I think that a lot of the younger generation, even some of the older people, have forgot that there were some groups 20 years back that were doing some singing and putting out some great quality R&B pop music. And to have them come back and then come back with a great album on top of that. I mean, The Block is one of the greatest contemporary R&B pop albums of all time. I mean, to this very day, it's been about 4 years since that thing's been out. It stays in my iPod. I mean, songs like Summertime, 2 in the Morning, Looking Like Danger, Stare at You, Twisted, and one of my personal favorites, as most of the blockheads on Twitter and around the world know, Click, Click, Click. I love that track so much that I had to do a freestyle over it. Shout out to all the Blockhead fans for supporting that. Thank you so much, because I'm glad that y'all saw that it was coming from the heart. Not only was I glad that my boys were back, but also just glad that they came back with some tough material that I personally believe could compete with anything on the radio right now. Even Jordan's new solo album, as well as some of Joey's stuff, and even Danny Wood's solo album, Coming Home, is one of my favorite albums. So long story short, shout out to Danny, Donnie, Jonathan, Jordan, and Joey. Thank you so much for being a strong influence on my singing, my dancing, my choreography, and even my songwriting, because without guys like y'all, there would be no law. And once again, a shout out to all the blockheads like myself for staying true and believing that one day they would actually come back out and reunite. And the funny thing about it is that since they came back out in 2008, they've been touring and coming back nonstop ever since. So once again, shout out to them. Lord salute you, paying homage to New Kids on the Block. Boston's in the building. LAW.